and players mobbing.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by PrizePicks and the Game Time app.
Hello, people. Welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I am Sherrod Blakely, joined by the Philadelphia Inquirer's the one and only award-winning Keith Pompey. What's going on, Keith?
What's good, man? Good to be on the podcast with you again.
Man, it's good to be on the podcast, and we don't have to trash the Sixers, man. Y'all balling. This might be the most atypical podcast I've done in talking to you because I literally have nothing to be hating on, although I will find a way to hate in some way, shape, or form because I just can't do it without that. But before we get knee deep into conversation about the upcoming game between the Celtics and the Sixers, I just want to let folks know that this is the Big Three NBA podcast and is part of the CLNS Media Network. What we do wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for great sponsors such as our good friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Keith, we're just going to jump right into things here. The Celtics, they have won 2 in a row after losing their first 3. Among those first 3 losses was that 1-point loss to the Sixers in an opener for them. Peyton Pritchard had a chance to win it at the very end. Got off a bad shot, didn't go in, Sixers win. But the story of that game, and really, I would say probably the story of the season so far for the Sixers is that rookie, VJ Edgecombe, who has been absolutely lights out. Dropped 34 in the Celtics on opening night, most, I think, by a rookie since some dude named Wilt dropped 43 back in 69 before you and my time. But they and also Tyrese Maxey has been killing it. And so we're going to just really kind of get into a conversation right off the bat looking at those two guys. But the one of those I want to look at closely is Maxey. He been killing it. I mean, the MVP talk hasn't started quite yet, but what is it about Maxey's game this year, Keith, that has allowed him to be so impactful right out the gates?
Well, first of all, it's funny. I gotta give you credit because I remember the first time you saw him play. One of the first times you commented on his speed and how he was able to get past like Tatum and Brown. This is a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So when you look at Maxey, Maxey has added a lot to his game. Each year he goes in there and he adds something else. Like he has that floater where he gets in there and he's like a little teardrop, boom. Or then he the midi comes out. But, before that, it was the 3-point shot and it was always the speed to get to the basket. But I think it's the variation that he plays with. But the biggest thing is now that the 76ers, they have an uptick. Whereas now they got a lot of guys around him who like to get out and go. And he is able to excel in the open court. But with that, you have other guys who are running just with him and get out there. So I think that, his game has continued to evolve because it's been evolving since he's been there. He always talks about 1% better. I always thought it was a cliche. But it is happened. But also we look at the way they're playing now. Before they would play a style that benefited Joel. And they would have guys on the roster who they felt would benefit Joel. Now you look at it and they got guys on the roster who like to get out and go and play at a high tempo and play the same speed that Maxey does. And that's enabling him to shine.
Yeah, we've seen a little, not necessarily in terms of wins and losses per se, but style of play with the Celtics has also been tweaked a little bit this year to be more aligned with what Jaylen Brown does, for example. Whereas before you had Tatum, you had Drew Holiday, you had Porzingis, you had all these like all-star caliber players, and they were so skilled that you could run half-court sets all game long and just execute the hell out of teams. Whereas now, Celtics are looking to run more, Philly's looking to run more, and I guess the one thing that always comes into play that I don't think we talk enough about is just how is that style of play vibing with the community? I mean, are folks excited about what they're seeing now? Because often coaches, when they talk about playing more up-tempo, they talk about, it helps us win, but it's also more enjoyable for our fans to see that too, even when we're not winning per se. How has the community been vibing with this new look, this new style of play that we're seeing in Philly?
Yeah, the people love it. I mean, they really do. I mean, here we go. Like, you know, and we have to be honest, the points are going up this year now. There's a lot of people that we say like, dude, I can't believe that guy got 50, but he got 50, right? So when you look at that, you know, you look at Tyrese Maxey, you know, getting he had 40 against Boston, he had 39 against the Washington Wizards, right? He had 30 another game. You know, the people love that. That's what they want to see. They also want to see, you know, the dunks. They want to see the alley-oops. They want to see the block shots. And it's kind of like, you know, they want to be entertained. And that's what the 76ers are doing right now. They are entertaining their fans. And so the good part about it is that they're also undefeated. But at the same time, people are walking away saying, wow, I saw that alley-oop. Oh, I saw that 40-point game. So I think that's what the fans are really getting into. In the past, it wasn't, you didn't have that type of excitement around them. It was, we're going to get the ball to Joel. We're going to do this. We're going to have some other guys knock down some threes. But now I just feel like the exciting basketball is what everybody loves.
Yeah. And as we talk about Tyrese, and the community and the vibe and all that stuff, it raises the question, and I don't know if it's too soon to get into this, but as I'm watching them play and I'm looking at the type of players that they're starting to put the pieces around, is this Tyrese's team yet? Are we trending in that direction? Where do you see that?
You know what, and that's a great question, Sherrod. I do believe that we are trending in that direction. I don't think that is 100% official yet. And here's the reason why. I think that the Sixers are looking at this window that they have, and they're hoping and they're praying that Joel Embiid can get back to the guy that he can be, right? But they also know that we got to be careful with him, right? And we got to play a certain style in the regular season. But the hope and the prayer is that when playoffs come around, Joel is going to assert himself and be that leader, kind of like the Ferrari that you have parked in the garage that you only bring out for big moments,
right?
But then you drive you'll drive the Camry or whatever because it's really reliable. And Maxey is a reliable guy. But when you look at how the 76ers are doing things, like they know that, okay, well, if that Ferrari breaks down, we got to have something else. So what they're doing is you go out there and you get a VJ Edgecombe, a guy who can play great next to him, right? You go out and you get Trendon Watford, a guy who is a nice passing big. You go out and get all these other guys, so they all fit Tyrese's style of play. So yes, this is trending to that way, but I do think when you have a Paul George and a Joel Embiid on the team, guys making maximum salary, what you're doing is you're like saying, okay, we got these two. We're hoping that we don't have to give Maxey the keys full-fledged, but at the same time, if they break down and they don't play, we got a backup plan. We're good. We're good. You know?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Paul George, because he's a guy that kind of knows what Maxey's going through as far as being on a team, starting off as maybe second or third fiddle, and gradually that team becomes your team. And I'm just curious, how are they going to figure out how to best utilize Paul George when he's healthy enough? Because it's very different than Joel, where there is no like comparable player to Joel on his roster. You don't have a 7-foot beast, that can do the things that he does, whereas Paul George is a wing. And you look at Maxey, you look at VJ, you look at McCain, who's going to be back probably soon. It seems like the Paul George need isn't as great. And so that being said, how do they plan to utilize him going forward when he is healthy enough to play?
You know, and that's I mean, what you doing, man? You got these great questions today. But look, for that Syracuse education coming out. So like
every now and then.
Since
we can't do it in football, we gotta do it in something, right?
Nah, y'all do it in everything. But here's the deal. That's if I'm Paul George, I'm saying right now, I'm waking up every morning, I'm saying praise God, hallelujah, praise Allah, whatever it is, right? You got to say it, because guess what? This is a great situation for him. Because when you look at Paul George and you look at the money that he's making, there becomes these high expectations, right? Where everybody wants him to be the guy. Right now, they don't need him to be the guy, right? And they're looking at it like, you know, if I'm Paul George, what I'm thinking about is, and let's face it, yes, when Paul George was in Indiana, he was the dude. It didn't really go well because they could never win the big game. But then he goes to Oklahoma City, He latches up with West. All the pressure was on West. He could go out there and do whatever he wanted. The same thing with the Clippers. For the most part, that was Kawhi's team. So now he's coming here. You got these young guns playing. Guess what people are going to say, Paul? Paul, you ain't got to take the last shot.
Right.
All you got to do is defend, right? When Nick Nurse talks about Paul George at practice, he's talking about him defending, like this being really disruptive, things like that. And here's something else I'm going to say about Paul George. I remember his first preseason game with the Sixers, right? They played the Minnesota Timberwolves in Des Moines, Iowa. Mm-hmm. So Maxey was bringing the ball up. He was struggling, getting stripped, this and that. Next thing you know, Paul gets a defensive rebound. He runs down the court and then takes it all the way and finishes. Boom. It was nice, right? Then next thing you know, next time he comes down, they look at him. He feeds Kelly Oubre, goes in for a dunk. And then I said, Paul, I didn't know you had that, man. Like, no offense. Like, I've been covering you for a while, but I didn't know you did that. And he said, well, you know, I like being more of a team player. So I really don't have to be able. I'm not saying that he didn't want to take over. He just didn't want to be selfish. He wanted to blend in. So now you got Maxey, you got Edgecombe, you got Quentin Grimes. This is going to enable Paul to blend in. And if he blends in, if they're winning, no one's going to criticize him for making $50+ million a year. They're just going to look at him as being a team player. So if I'm Paul George, I really love what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's almost as if Paul George has like just stumbled upon the best situation he could be in at this point in his career. Because to your point, Keith, the way this roster is starting to kind of settle in and folks are kind of figuring out the roles, Paul George could potentially be your third or fourth option, which is crazy when you think about his skill set. You think about this is a guy that when all said and done, and there's some people who may disagree with me on this, Paul George is going to go into the Hall of Fame. He may not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he is going to get in at some point. So you got a guy who still's got some gas in the tank, who is basically your third or fourth option, and is still, again, when he's healthy, I would say he's a top 20, top 25 player when he's healthy. But that's the big question mark, and you know, with Paul George, and it's been that way for a while. Can he stay healthy enough to contribute? But you're right, Keith. I mean, fans, I don't think are going to be tripping about the money as long as the team is winning.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
Because you know how that works. I mean, the minute things start getting a little bit wobbly, it's like, okay, what's wrong? Oh, he making $50 million. That's the problem. We got to get rid of that. And that's when that stuff starts happening. But as long as they're winning and he's, you know, doing his part to help them win, it's going to be a great, great, great situation for him. Before we go on, I just want to give folks who are listening that this is the Big 3 NBA podcast, part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you'll find the Big 3 NBA podcast, past and present episodes, as well as other great Celtics content. And again, we are joined today by Philadelphia Inquirer's Keith Pompey. We're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, one of four teams, as we tape this, who are still undefeated in the NBA, the other being the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference. Haven't quite figured out how the hell that happened. And then the other side, out west, you got Oklahoma City and you've got the San Antonio Spurs, which you can kind of figure out why they're undefeated, because OKC defending champs. San Antonio Spurs got arguably the most dominant, complete player, you know, rolling out there now, putting up video game numbers in Wemby. And Chicago, I still can't figure out what they're doing, but we're focusing on the Philadelphia 76ers, who, again, are undefeated so far. Among those wins was that season opening win over the Celtics. And, you know, one of the things we touched on a little bit, Keith, we talked about Joel briefly, and I want us to talk a little bit more about him. Joel has been one of the most dominant players in the game for a while. And, you know, there are times, even now, where you can still see flashes of that greatness. But clearly, this team's best chances at winning aren't necessarily with things flowing through Joel anymore. And I'm just curious, Keith, how has he handled that reality? Has it set into him that this is not this is not my team how it used to be? And how is he handling what's going to need to be a new type of role that they're going to need for him to play in order to keep winning?
You know, I think we'll learn more as the season goes along, right? You know, it's funny. Like we watched when they played the Celtics in the season opener, and Joel struggled mightily on both ends of the floor.
He was garbage, man.
Yeah,
you ain't gotta say it. I say it for you. He was garbage. It was for those of us who have watched him play all these years, it was like, wait, is he still hurt? Is he?
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. Yeah.
Because, and when we talk about that game, right, the two, no offense to the guys that the Boston Celtics have playing center, but in the past, he always struggled against these dudes, against the Celtics. I shouldn't say always, but they had some games. Yeah. But we're talking about Al Horford, Bane, guy like, guys like that, big burly dudes who they would muscle them. This was supposed to be a game where Joel Embiid was supposed to impose his will and say, y'all forgot about me. I'm that dude, right? Yeah. So the next game, Joel comes out and, they go up against Charlotte. He's going up against a rookie second-round pick, and Joel was just destroying the dude, just destroyed him. And it was kind of like you look at it and it's like, okay, y'all were talking smack. I'm going to do what I got to do, right? The only concern that I have is that right now, Joel is like cheering, he's clapping, he's doing everything. But what happens if months from now, if everyone starts saying it's Maxey and VJ Edgecombe's team? Right. Like, how is Joel going to deal with that? Right. The last game that they played the Washington Wizards on Tuesday. Joel didn't play the third game of the season, but they played the Washington Wizards on Tuesday. And Joel offensively was phenomenal. Like, he was getting to the basket. He was doing stuff. He scored 25 points in 23 minutes. The problem was VJ Edgecombe didn't shoot the ball until 4 minutes and 17 seconds into the half. Left in the half. That's unacceptable to me. And I felt like the game turned into the two-man game between Maxey and Joel. So when we say how's he handling with it, to me, it's telling me that, yes, he's saying that he wants to be a great teammate, and he has been a great teammate, but there's something there that he still wants to be the guy, right? And that's how it is. So what's going to happen if you're not, especially if the team starts losing? Like, how are you going to handle that, right, if you're not playing that way? So to me, it's like, yes, everything is new. It's just like the worst team in the league think they're going to make the playoffs. Right? Everybody has that. How is Joel going to deal with it? Right. And then something else that I have to say, Sherrod, is like in the fourth quarters, the Sixers are extremely better when he's out of the game. And, he's just been getting he's just looked kind of bad on the defensive end. Like, the guy Sarr from Washington had 31 points. Yeah. Marvin Bagley III had shot 6 for 7 and was dunking on Embiid. So to me, it's kind of like, we'll see how that happens how he responds if this continues. But I don't know. It's like it's hard to answer at this particular time. But he's been getting abused on the defensive end.
Yeah, and to me, that was the thing about in that first game against the Celtics that really jumped out at me. And again, I like the progress that like Neemias Queta has made for the Celtics, but there's no way in hell that he should have been, or Luka Garza or any of them big should have had as much success as they had against Joel. It was really, really bad. And again, it raises a lot of the questions and concerns people have about this team. What exactly is the best role for them to be successful, and Joel to feel as though he has a voice and can put his imprint on the game. And we'll continue talking about Joel, but first, want to give a special shout out to our good friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks, by the way, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for your shot to win cash. It's the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same players up to 3 times in the same lineup. And if, let's say, you're an Eagles fan like me, and you want to capitalize on what Jalen Hurts is doing, you can include Jalen Hurts passing yards, his rushing yards, and touchdowns. Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, and you can only do that on PrizePicks. You can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity, or just someone whose picks you really, really like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. And how do you get in on this? It's real simple. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And again, we're back talking with Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer. And it's good to be winning, which is something the Sixers are doing a lot of these days. And we're talking about Joel Embiid currently and just the role that he plays with the team and impact and things like that. And Keith, you bring a good point earlier about how it remains to be seen how he's going to adjust to that. I'm also curious along those same lines, Keith, how will Maxey and Nick Nurse adapt what they do to Joel? Because at some point, I feel like there's gonna be that necessary but uncomfortable conversation that between those three individuals is going to have to be had, where Joel might be feeling he should have a certain amount of real estate and input in what's happening, and then Maxey is going to have to flex and be more of a leader, and Nick Nurse is going to have to be almost like the arbitrator to figure out how do I keep my most expensive player, who really ain't playing like my most expensive player, happy, while recognizing the fact that I got this young stud coming up. He's balling, he's leading, he's doing all the things that we need to do to not just compete but win games. How am I going to balance all that? How do you anticipate Nick Nurse and Tyrese specifically to handle this kind of new relationship that they're kind of building with Joel?
With Tyrese, I don't think it will be a problem. I mean, but I also think that Tyrese is going to try to give Joel some touches, make sure he gets involved, make him feel a certain way, right? I think Nick Nurse, that's something that they're going to have to really figure out. Like if it doesn't work out, right? It's going to be on you. And the reason why I don't think it's going to be a problem with Tyrese, the reason why I say that is because, Tyrese might be Joel's closest friend on the team, since he's been here. It's just something about that relationship. In the past, the 76ers have always had it where the stars were like frenemies. They were all, when the media came in, everything was cool and this and that, but everybody wanted to be the man. It has never been that way with Tyrese. Tyrese was always in awe of Joel to a point where Joel had to call him the franchise, like this and that. Now, the one thing is that we also got to know, and this is a crazy analogy, and I'm just going to say it. People are going to look at me like I'm crazy. But when you are, when something is with you, like for instance, you're playing basketball or something like that, and you're like, ooh, man, I need to take a shower. Before everybody else that you like, yo, bro, I need to go handle something. So right. When your game is going left and you can't do things, Joel Embiid knows before everyone else. So it's going to probably come a point in time where Joel might say, if he's on top of his game, yeah, he's going to want the rock. He's going to want it. But also knowing that he had 2 knee surgeries in the last 2 seasons.
Right.
He had 3 we're talking about the left knee, 3 over 9 years. And if you can't go, it might be better off to be you know what? I'm going to act like I'm sacrificing myself for Maxey as opposed to admitting that I can't do it anymore. Right. If that's the case. Yeah. Right. Now, if you are that guy, then that may be a problem, so to speak, especially when in meaningful games, right? But I think that's something that Joel is going to have to figure out as the season progresses to see oh, I can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? So, so to me, that's what's going to have to happen in that instance. But as far as Maxey goes along with Joel, man, I'm telling you, there's not going to be any I don't think that there's going to be any rough conversations that's going on. But Nick Nurse, 4th quarter comes out. Okay, Joel, I'm sorry, bro, but we can't play you. And you got to realize Nick Nurse did that last year. They were playing against Brooklyn, and Joel was getting abused. Next thing you know, they went to Yabusele over Joel. And that had to be a hurt piece, but Nick Nurse stood on it. He did not say, well, Joel wasn't playing well. We had minute tricking. He was like, nah, Yabu gave us a better chance of winning, and I went with Yabu.
Yeah.
So
how did Joel handle that reality? Because I got to believe that there's a part of him that's thinking like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not playing in the fourth quarter. I'm not playing as much in the fourth quarter. How was he handling that situation last year?
Well, you know what? It ended up being the last game that he played too. That was crazy. Yeah, and it was and it was funny too, because there were a lot of NBA execs and scouts there. And when we walked out, one dude said, "I wonder how this going to go. I wonder if Joel ever plays again this year, whatever." Right, and that ended up being the last game that he played. You know, it was bad. I mean, it was at that particular time, but then. And you got the thing where the knee is messed up, this and that. So everybody was trying to pay attention to the relationship this year. Right. Based off of the last couple games, you look at it, they have been communicating, going back and forth and this and that. Joel was giving his tidbits and he's been a great teammate. But that was kind of crazy. Like that was the last game that he played. Wow. And Nick Nurse stood on business. Like it wasn't trying to do it. No, he said, you know what he said? He said, y'all saw the game. Joel saw the game. Joel saw how we played without him. Yeah. I was like, dang. Okay. Go ahead, Nick. Okay, Nick. Don't do that.
No, most coaches do not do that. But when you get a championship under your belt and on your resume, you feel a little more confident to flex like that, I would imagine, especially for a franchise that had not won a championship before, when he was in Toronto. One of the big things, Keith, and we haven't really talk much about him, and he's, I would say, arguably the biggest difference in how people look at Philly now versus a year ago, and that's VJ Edgecombe. He was one of those guys that people talked about leading up to the draft that folks felt could be pretty good, but I don't know if they thought he'd be this damn good. I mean, when you come into the league and after week one, people are throwing your name around in the same conversation as guys like Dwayne Wade, for example. I've heard that comp. How has he shown himself to be better than people thought? Because I think, better question, how does the reality of what he does differ from what the expectations were from what he could do?
Yeah, it's because the expectation was like this guy was just going to come in and be another athletic dude. And you and I know you've been covering this league for a while. Athletic dudes don't always translate to good players in the NBA. No. In college they do, in high school they do, but not in the NBA. The main concerns were, can he bring the ball up? Can he handle? Can he shoot? Can he do a lot of different things? And I think in that Boston game, he showed us a lot. I mean, he really did. Because he showed that he's a big time player. I'm gonna share this with you. So doing shoot around, there's two things that really impressed me. So doing shoot around, he goes in there, Sherrod, and I asked him, I said, hey man, like you're about to make your NBA debut. Not only that, you're playing in Boston against the Celtics. How did you sleep last night? I'm pretty sure. Were you nervous? Were you on the phone talking to people? He said, nah, man, I got more than 8 hours of sleep. He just smiled at me. And so I'm like, BS. Whatever. Yeah, you think this is bull? Yeah, you bulling, right? And then I'm just going to tell you, during the workout, his pregame workouts, they had him shooting the ball, and they were doing traps. Dude, he couldn't bury a three to save his life. He was just couldn't. And I'm just like, okay, he's going to get exposed tonight. It's going to be bad. Right. So Boston, of course, doing what they do. They do the research. They know that the guy is not known as a three-point shooter. They left him open. Yep. And he was draining them. Yeah. So to me, I was like, well, dang, maybe he was relaxed. And secondly, there's no fear. Right. He was like, yo, guess what? Y'all going to leave me open. I'm going to take this shot if I make it or not. I'm not afraid to do it. So to me, the reality is that here's a guy who is extremely confident, but he's not cocky. Right. And he has that dog in him. And then I'm looking at him like is he really going after Derek White and Jaylen Brown? Like these two dudes, like it's different. Like you're a rookie and you're saying, I want all the smoke. Right. So that really impressed me about him. And then after the game, I said, yo, bro, like you said you weren't nervous. And he looked at me and I said, now you got the third highest scoring total in the debut. They do. He's like, really? Like this and that. But it was kind of like one of those things where that's what it is. He's an extremely confident dude. And then we got to realize this about him, Sherrod. So, how many times do we know of dudes who, like, where we grew up at, and they were like, the family was poor, this and that, and this and that. We're talking about a dude whose mom and them didn't have electricity, who came to America to get, he came to America to provide for his family. He cried on draft night because he's making it possible. Him going into TD Garden, him playing against Jaylen Brown and Derek White, two quality players, that ain't scary to him. The big thing for him is, how do I make sure we get electricity? How do I make sure my mom doesn't have to work? So, there is confidence, but not scared. He's not scared. So that's the best way to describe him.
Yeah, and you can just tell watching him play that he's just built different. Mentally than most rookies. I'm watching the game and I'm the camera will pan on him every now and then, and at no point did he show any signs of being anything less than, I'm going to be the best player on this floor. I'm going to execute. I'm going to do my job. Now the free throws, that's another story. That was like the only moment he had all game long where he looked like a rookie. Yeah. And I know he got clowned in the locker room after that.
Oh my God. They were calling. They said, oh yeah, whatchamacallit? They were like 77 came to play. 77 wasn't scared. Oh, but he was 77 was scared on the free throws. Weren't you 77?
Right. But listen, man, that kid, and the thing about it, for those of us who watch a lot of basketball, a lot of players, seeing him is refreshing. I mean, he doesn't seem like the kid who has, kind of had, from the time he was 7 years old, you knew he was going to be an NBA player. He didn't have that anointing that a lot of these guys come into the league with, feeling as if they have made it, even though they really haven't done anything. The fact is as you pointed out, and this is the thing when I talk to people about him, almost everyone who's been around him says this in some way, shape, or form, and that is he's got that dog in him. And those of us who've been covering the NBA and have seen hundreds and thousands of players, we know when that dog is there, and we know when it ain't. And this brother is a dog. And the Celtics, they understand all too well that they're going to have their hands full for a few years. Because I'm looking forward to next year when he'll have a full NBA season under his belt. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's going to make strides. He's going to get better than what we're seeing now. I know that. How is that going to work when you got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and that crew back together? Because now all of a sudden the Eastern Conference got mad interesting. With pretty much everyone in the Atlantic, having a squad that could cause some damage. But I wanted to pivot, Keith. Go ahead. You about to say something?
No, I'm good.
No, I was going to want to pivot to just the Celtics, and again, that's next opponent on the schedule. And again, for those listening, we're talking with Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, covers the Philadelphia Sixers, does a great job. And we're looking ahead to the Celtics-Philly game that'll be on Halloween. Celtics have won a couple games in a row. Philly is undefeated. What do you see are lessons that Philly took from that first game? Because obviously they got the win, but like any team, there's something that you can learn and things you can build on. What were some of the building blocks or lessons they took from that first win that kind of helped them going forward?
I think the biggest thing that helped them going forward was the play of Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, right? I think that's the thing that really benefited them the most. Because think about it, nobody knew that Maxey was going to get 40 or VJ was going to come out with 34 the way that they played, right? To me, it was like that game was crazy because it was two teams, in my opinion, who didn't even know what their identity was. Like they thought they knew, right? And then you look at Boston. I mean, they started off 0-3, right? And then they basically boat raced the last two teams they played, shellacked them, right? So they're playing very, very good right now, very well, excuse me. But I think that what the Sixers have done is like they realize who they have, who they can depend on, things like that. The thing is, I think the Sixers still have a lot more to figure out, though, because even though, like, here's the thing with the Celtics, Jason Tatum, excuse me, you know that you're going to miss him at least for most of the season. So you don't have to worry about that dynamic, even though you want him. You don't have to worry about that dynamic. How is he going to fit in? I think for the 76ers, as they have these guys still trickling in, Nick Nurse has the task of saying, okay, well, how are they going to play together? We think we have an idea, but we really don't know till they get out there. So each game that the Sixers are playing, they're learning more and more about themselves, right? Now, heading into this game right now, in my opinion, if I'm the Sixers, I'm sitting pretty because I'm looking at it like we didn't really shoot the ball as well as we wanted to shoot. Right. But at the same time, we still had a chance to win in that game. And as you know, it's not like a playoff series, but these guys played each other last week. So if you're the Boston Celtics, you're like, man, we got that bad taste in our mouth. We just shellacked Cleveland. Before that, we put a hammer on New Orleans. They were saying no mas, no mas. Now we're going to come to Philly where we love to go in there and upset the Phillies fans, right? So we're going to go in there and we're going to try to do stuff. And we know, okay, we let Young Boy get off on us talking about VJ. We got to tighten that up a little bit. Maxey, like whatever. So it's going to be a good game, but I feel like because it was so close, they have a mental advantage, especially if you're brown and white, because they're like, yo, now it's getting personal. We can't let this guy do that. So I just feel like Boston has a little bit of an edge over the Sixers heading into this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. And the fact that it's going to be on a Halloween got me to thinking, we need to talk a little bit about that. And not so much Halloween, but just like, here's my question, my Halloween themed question for the game for you. Philly obviously is balling out. What's the one thing they could do a better job at that you think would make them scary good going forward? One thing they could do a better job at that will make them scary good.
I think they got to do. They have to play better defense, man. Like they do. Like, I mean, right now, you got a Dembona getting a lot of blocks, but for the most part, dude, dribble drive, like it's like, I mean, you might as well be hopping on the subway or the train, just going through the turnstile. Like it's easy, dude. The printer. I mean, guys are just getting whatever they want to a point that if you're a team and you rely heavily on the three, you're messing up because you're getting layups left and right. Like it's easy peasy against the Sixers. So they need to have better defense, man, because they're not stopping the guys from penetrating. And when they get in the lane, it's easy. Like guys are just going straight at them. So that's the one thing that they need to correct. They also need to play better at the start of the third quarter. Like, in the second half, they look bad, but, they which leads to them to have to make these major comebacks in the fourth. But at the same time, I think the defense, they got to shore that up because it's like they can't stop ball at all. They can't stop ball at all.
Yeah. For the Celtics, it would be, I would say the thing that would make them scary good would be just being a better defensive rebounding team because their defense has actually been pretty damn good, better than I thought it would be, to be honest. But the problem in the games that they've lost to Philly, the other couple losses they had was that they just got their asses kicked on the glass. Like they would have a great defensive setting, and then you would have like my man Duren from Detroit come in and get an offensive rebound, and then they get a layup. That was Detroit's best offense when they beat Boston was the missed shot because the missed shot got them a layup most of the time. If they shore that up, I think they could be pretty damn good. And that's the one thing in the two wins that the last two games they won, they were much more competitive on the defensive glass. And with Philly, again, that's where, to me, the Joel dynamic comes into play, because if he's able to rebound the way we know he can when he's locked and loaded, that's going to be a problem for Boston. But if he plays anywhere close to how he did in that first meeting, Philly might be catching that first L of the season on Halloween.
You're right. You're right. And I wasn't even like pinpoint drill, but I'm gonna give you this one stat. And I didn't even write this yet, but I'm gonna give it a stat. In the fourth quarters with Embiid off the floor, the Sixers have outscored their opponents 139-93 in the first 4 games. Yeah. So they got to shore that up too. Yeah. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Well, look, man, before we get out of here, for those of you listening to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find this show and many others with lots of great Celtics content. And one more thing before I forget, please make sure to turn on your notifications so that the minute a video like this one drops, you will be in the know. For Keith Pompey, I'm Sherrod Blakely, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast. We out.